This is a story from Iceland. It's called Father of 18. Um, of course, it was a long time ago because stories always happen a long time ago. There lived on an isolated little farm a husband and wife who, when after some years of marriage, were finally blessed with a child, were finally blessed with a son, were delighted and overjoyed and really quite doting parents. And mother nursed her son. And eventually, of course, he grew and he came to that age where children are keen to explore the world. And one day, the wife was down at the river. Perhaps she was washing fleece, or perhaps she did a little fishing. And she took her eyes off her son for ever such a small, tiny amount of time. When she turned round, he had gone. And so the mother looked in the water, looked everywhere she could think of, searched and called, but all no. She went back to the farm, found her husband, and together they searched everywhere, and they couldn't find their son. But then that evening, just as the sun was setting, they found there, by the fire, a little boy, sitting there just as if nothing had happened. And so mother took him and cuddled him. But this strange little fellow ate and ate and ate. And of course she quickly realised that he wasn't her son. That she really didn't know what to do, so she did what any sensible woman would do. She asked advice of a witch. And a witch on Iceland is called a volva, someone who practices the old magic. And the volva told her what to do. So, the good wife took a spoon and tied to it her broomstick. And to the broomstick she tied another pole. And she made, in a little pot, a lamb stew and placed it on the fire. And the smell of the lamb stew rose up through the roof. And at this point, the changeling, for of course that's what he was sitting on the roof. But he smelled the wonderful scent of cooking lamb. And he came down off the roof and came into the house. And there, on the fire, was the pot of lamb cooking, and in it was the spoon for stirring the lamb, and attached to it was the broom and the pole, and the good wife was stirring with. And the changeling looked at this and said, I am a father of 18 children. I have lived many years in the world of the elves, but never have I seen such a long spoon. And with that, the good wife had the proof that she needed that he was really a changeling. So she grabbed him, picked him up, pulled down his breeches, put him over. I do not condone violence to children, by the way. Put him over her lap and began to spank his bare bottom. And at that moment, in walked through the door a tall, graceful woman dressed in blue. And in her arms she held the wife's real son. And the woman said, What are you doing to my husband? Here, I have your son, and I'm caring for him and looking after him, and yet you are beating my husband. So the tall elf woman handed over the good wife's real baby son, real toddler son, and up sprang the changeling, who by now was a little wizened old man. And together, the changeling and his wife walked out of the house, walked out of our story, and were never seen again. If you know that, if storytellers will of course know that there are variations on that story, and certainly there are Scottish variations on that story, but we shouldn't be surprised that there's similarities between stories from Scotland and stories from Iceland, because of course they were both colonised by the Norse. We call them Vikings, the men of the North, people of the North. That elves in the old tradition often took a human child and left one of their own in its place. That might be has been suggested that possibly if in a subsistence agriculture society, if you gave birth to a child who was obviously deformed in some way, you wouldn't be able to support that child. And so you could convince yourself that, it's not really human. And then maybe you can just kind of leave them out for the wolves or whoever to find. Shakespeare uses that as a plotline in The Winter's Tale. That actually something that did. The Spartans were notorious for this, but yeah, quite a lot of people did this, but maybe we shouldn't be too judgmental. Anyway, there you are, a changeling story from Iceland with a vulva, the wise woman, the witch. I kind of like that. So, for other stories, please subscribe to my channel, and I do hope to see you again soon. And of course, don't forget, the husband, the wife, and their small son lived. Come on, you can do this bit. Come on, your line. Are we ready? Happily ever after. As I hope will you.